songs I won't repeat. Here's the thing though, 16 isn't really feeling him at all. She thinks he's way too old for her, and correctly so. But Plugwalk Joe doesn't seem to care. He starts cyber-stalking her, sending her more creepy, explicit messages. Within a few days, he has already sent her a picture of his junk. And so 16, she gets tired of him pretty quickly, and she threatens to hack him in retaliation. She also goes over to the Discord server that they hang out in, and she posts that picture of his junk that he sent her for everyone to see and laugh at. And this pisses Plugwalk Joe off. And he's like, oh, hell no. And he is not gonna let this slide. And he decides to swat her. At one point, he calls the local police in her area, saying he's an armed and dangerous individual, and he threatens to unalive his wife and children, and then he gives them what he thinks is her address so that the police show up to her house. He also emails her school's principal pretending to be her, and he says that she has plans to bring a pew-pew to school to take out some very specific groups of people. He also calls the local sheriff, I guess pretending to be her, and he claims that she's gonna blow up the local airport. He also calls her relatives, and he starts telling them that he's gonna harm them and 16. Cause bro is like suddenly a terrorist. And all of these swatting attempts I just named happened in the same day. Now, I guess he eventually leaves her alone. I actually don't know how that saga between them ended. I couldn't find anything on it. But what I do know is that around this time, there's another Twitter hack. But this one is huge, the biggest in the history of Twitter. Because Plugwalk Joe and a bunch of hackers apparently get together and they hack over 130 Twitter accounts. Mostly of extremely famous people, including the accounts of Barack Obama, Joe Biden, Jeff Bezos, Apple, Bill Gates, Elon Musk, Kanye West, Floyd Mayweather, Wiz Khalifa, a bunch of people. But this time, they're promoting a link to some kind of Bitcoin scam. And through this Bitcoin scam, they're able to make $118,000 in Bitcoin from people who clicked on the link and fell for the scam. And I assume all these hackers end up splitting up the money between themselves. Here's the thing though. Because they targeted such high-profile accounts in this stunt, this hack blows the up.
And we have breaking news from Twitter. The company is dealing with a major hack.
The accounts include former Vice President Joe Biden, Elon Musk, Apple.
And once this starts getting media attention and it's all over the news, I guess Plugwalk Joe realizes the feds are probably going to get involved. Which, yeah, if you hack a former president's Twitter account, the government might investigate you. And so Plugwalk Joe wants to get out ahead of this. So from Spain, he calls the American feds on the telephone, and he basically says, this hack, it wasn't me. And he gives them the names of other hackers who he says were involved. Not only that, he admits to a bunch of those smaller Twitter hacks he did in the past. He basically says, yeah, those hacks were me, but this big one wasn't. So, not only is he admitting to past crimes, even if he thinks they were small, but he's inadvertently linking himself to this big recent Twitter hack. And so immediately the feds open an investigation into him and they start gathering evidence against him. And they start working with Spanish National Police to surveil him, and eventually Spanish National Police, boom, they bust in and they raid his apartment, and bam, they arrest Plugwalk Joe. Here's a picture of him getting escorted by police. And he spends 2 years in Spanish jail, and then he's extradited to the US, and there he gets sentenced to 5 years in prison.